So we're going to try and find the coolest, most interesting parts for everyone about these subatomic particles.
Absolutely.
And you might be thinking, well, what makes Kaon so special?
Right.
Well, they have this thing called a strange quark.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
And it really is.
It is a strange little beastie, that quark.
Go Kaons.
Have been really important in some of the biggest discoveries we've made in particle physics.
Oh, wow.
They actually help us answer the question of why there's more matter than antimatter in the universe.
Okay, so before we get to all that crazy stuff,
Sure.
let's start with something simple. Like, what exactly are kaons?
Yeah.
And what makes them different from other particles?
So kaons are a type of meson,
Okay.
which means they're made up of a quark and an antiquark. But what makes them different is that one of those quarks is always a strange quark.
No. All right.
So that's what makes them special.
So how did this strange quark get its name?
That's a good question.
Did physicists just think it was weird and just call it that?
It wasn't quite that simple, but it was kind of along those lines.
Okay.
When they were first discovered, kaons had some really unusual properties, especially with how they decayed.
Okay.
They seemed to live for much longer than expected, and they didn't really fit into the theories that we had at the time.
Interesting.
So scientists thought there must be something fundamentally different about them, which is why they called them strange.
So they were breaking the rules from the start.
Yeah, kind of.
All right. I like them already.
They're good for that.
So how did these strange quarks and kaons, I guess, lead to the idea of quarks in general?
Right.
Because I thought protons and neutrons were supposed to be, like, the smallest things.
Yeah, for a long time, physicists thought that protons and neutrons couldn't be broken down any further. But then they started smashing particles together at really high energies using particle accelerators. And they started seeing signs of something even smaller inside.
Oh, wow.
And kaons played a really key part in this discovery.
Hold on. How can a particle help us find something that's smaller than it is?
That's a good question. It's all about the way that they interact and decay.
Okay.
So back in the 1960s, physicists noticed that kaons decayed in very specific patterns.
Yeah.
And these patterns could only really be explained if they were made up of even smaller pieces.
Oh, so it's like trying to figure out what a house is made of, but just by looking at the different ways it can fall apart.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
You see, like, bricks and wood in the rubble.
Exactly.
And you think, oh, okay, so those must have been holding it together.
Right. And so by carefully studying what kaons decayed into, physicists like Murray Gell-Mann and George Zweig, they were able to deduce that quarks must exist. And they could even predict some of their properties.
So kaons were like the Rosetta Stone of the particle world.
I like that.
Helping us figure out the language of quarks.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive for something that decays in, like, a fraction of a second.
They are very short-lived.
But if they disappear so quickly, how do we even study them?
Well, it's definitely tricky.
Yeah.
But we've come up with some very clever techniques.
Okay.
Particle accelerators, like the Large Hadron Collider, let us make beams of kaons, and then we smash them into other particles, and then we can study the pieces that come out of these collisions.
Yeah.
And from that, we can reconstruct what the original kaons were like and learn about how they interact.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
It's like figuring out how a crime happened.
Yes.
Just by looking at, like, the bullet fragments and the blood splatter.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned that Kaon decays were important earlier.
Yeah.
So what's so special about how they break down?
So their decay processes are really interesting because they're governed by the weak force, which is one of the 4 fundamental forces of nature.
Right.
And it's by studying these decays that we've discovered some of the most puzzling things about particle physics.
Like what?
Like CP violation.
CP violation?
Yeah.
That sounds kind of scary.
It's not going to cause an earthquake or anything.
Okay, good.
But it does challenge our understanding of the universe on a very fundamental level.
Oh, okay.
So CP symmetry basically says that the laws of physics should be the same if we swap a particle for its antiparticle and then flip it over in a mirror.
Okay.
But kaon decays show us that this symmetry isn't always true.
Wait, so it's like you're looking in a mirror and you see yourself doing something that's physically impossible.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's a little mind-bending.
Yeah, a little trippy.
And this violation of CP symmetry is a big part of trying to understand why there's more matter than antimatter in the universe.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff.
Right.
You said before that kaons might help explain why there's more matter than antimatter. Yes.
But how does the CP violation thing fit into that?
Well, that is a question for part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, man.
But I can tell you that there are actual experiments happening right now
Oh, wow.
looking into this, and it's really pushing the boundaries of what we know about kaons and what they mean for new physics.
All right, well, now I'm very intrigued.
Good, good. So, where were we? Oh, yeah, this whole mind-bending CP violation thing.
Yeah, and how it connects to the mystery of why we have more matter than antimatter.
Right, like a cosmic conspiracy.
Exactly. You mentioned that kaons could be the key to understanding this imbalance.
Yeah, they could be.
So how does that work? How can these tiny particles explain such a huge thing?
Well, the main theory is that during the Big Bang, matter and antimatter were created in equal amounts.
Okay, makes sense.
But if that were true,
Yeah.
they should have completely destroyed each other, leaving just energy.
Right, I see the problem.
But obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, we're here.
So something must have happened to make matter win out over antimatter. Okay, so there had to be some kind of loophole, right?
Exactly. And that's where CP violation comes in.
Ah.
It suggests that matter and antimatter don't behave in exactly the same way. This tiny difference, this asymmetry,
Yeah.
could have been enough to create a surplus of matter in the early universe.
Yeah, so this tiny little violation of symmetry
Yeah,
has huge consequences for the whole universe.
it really does.
It's amazing how these tiny particles can have such a big impact.
It is pretty remarkable.
And you mentioned earlier that kaons are also important for exploring new physics.
Right.
Especially through something called rare decays.
Yes.
So what makes these rare decays so special?
Well,
And what kind of new physics are we talking about here? Is this like warp drive stuff?
maybe not warp drives just yet,
Okay.
but it could still completely change our understanding of the universe.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, the Standard Model, our current best theory of particle physics, has done a pretty good job explaining most of what we observe, but it's not perfect. It still has some gaps.
So it's like a puzzle where we're missing a few pieces.
Exactly. And those missing pieces might be found in the way kaons decay.
Oh, interesting.
The Standard Model predicts that some types of kaon decays should be incredibly rare,
Okay.
almost impossible to see.
So if we DDoS see them happening more often than they should,
Yeah,
it means something else is going on.
exactly. It would suggest that there are new particles or forces out there, things that the Standard Model doesn't account for.
Okay, so these rare decays are like little cracks in the foundation of our current understanding,
I like that analogy.
showing us that there's a lot more to the universe than we currently know.
Yeah, there's a lot more to discover.
So what kind of experiments are looking for these rare events?
Well, there are several experiments around the world that focus on studying kaons, but one that's really pushing the boundaries is called NENE62 at CERN.
Okay.
It's specifically designed to look for a very specific type of rare decay.
Oh, which one?
It's called K plus to pi plus nu bar.
K plus to pi plus nu bar.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
So what are we actually looking for here?
In simple terms, it's when a positively charged kaon decays into a positively charged pion and two neutrinos.
Okay.
And neutrinos are these incredibly elusive particles that almost never interact with matter.
Oh, I've heard of those. They're like ghosts of the particle world?
Yeah, pretty much. So finding this decay is incredibly difficult.
So it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack,
Yeah.
but the needle is invisible.
Yeah, and the haystack is full of other particles that get in the way.
Wow, that sounds incredibly challenging.
It is. It takes some seriously sensitive detectors and some very clever analysis to find these events.
Okay, but why go through all this trouble for just this one type of decay?
Well, this particular decay is extremely sensitive to new physics beyond the Standard Model.
Okay.
If we see it happening more than we expect, it could be a sign of new particles,
Oh, wow. Like what?
like supersymmetric particles or leptoquarks.
Supersymmetric particles. Leptoquarks. Those sound like something out of a comic book.
They might sound exotic, but they're serious contenders in theoretical physics.
Okay, so what are they exactly?
So supersymmetry, or HUSY for short,
Yeah.
proposes that every known particle has a superpartner.
A superpartner.
Yeah, with slightly different properties.
So it's like every particle has a secret twin that we haven't met yet.
Exactly. And these superpartners could help solve some big mysteries, like the existence of dark matter.
Wow.
And then there are leptoquarks.
Okay.
These are hypothetical particles that could interact with both quarks and leptons.
Leptons. Remind me what those are again.
Oh, they're another family of fundamental particles.
Right, right.
Like electrons and neutrinos.
So leptoquarks could be like a bridge between these two different types of particle.
Exactly. It would be a whole new type of interaction that we haven't seen before.
Wow, it's like there's a whole hidden world of particles out there just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
But before we get lost in all this hypothetical stuff, let's bring it back to reality for a second.
Okay.
What kind of people are actually working on these experiments? What's it like to be on the front lines of these discoveries?
Well, it's an incredibly collaborative field. You have physicists, engineers, computer scientists, technicians,
Wow.
all working together from all over the world.
Amazing.
It's like a giant puzzle,
Yes.
and everyone brings their own expertise to help solve it.
Yeah, it does sound like a really cool group to be a part of.
It is.
All those people from different backgrounds
Yeah,
working together to figure out these big questions about the universe.
it's pretty inspiring.
You know, earlier we were talking about the Rosetta Stone
Right?
and how it helped us understand ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
It feels like kaons are kind of like a Rosetta Stone for particle physics,
I like that.
helping us understand the fundamental language of the universe.
They are, in a way.
It really is humbling to think that these tiny, short-lived particles could hold the answers to such huge questions.
It is amazing what we've learned from them.
So let's recap what we've covered today.
Okay.
We've explored the strange world of kaons, talked about their unique properties,
Yeah,
their role in proving the quark model,
right.
and that mind-blowing phenomenon of CP violation.
And we've also touched on the possibility that kaons could point us towards new physics,
Right, beyond the standard model.
potentially rewriting the textbooks.
Exactly.
And those experiments like NA62, hunting for those rare decays,
Yeah, amazing.
pushing the boundaries of technology.
So we've covered a lot of ground, but what does it all mean for the average person?
Right.
Why should they care about these tiny particles and their secrets?
Good question.
Is it just theoretical stuff with no real impact on our lives?
Well, it might seem that way at first,
Yeah.
but pursuing this kind of fundamental knowledge,
Mhm.
understanding the building blocks of the universe,
Yeah.
has always been what drives human progress.
That's true.
Think about it. Our understanding of electricity led to inventions like the light bulb.
Right.
Smartphones.
Yeah.
Exploring the atom gave us nuclear power. Medical imaging.
So who knows what amazing technologies might come from understanding kaons
Exactly.
and the subatomic world.
There's so much potential.
It's like we're planting seeds of knowledge now
Yeah,
that could grow into incredible innovations in the future.
that's a great way to put it.
But even beyond practical application,
Sure.
there's just something so awe-inspiring about exploring the unknown,
It's true.
pushing the boundaries of what we understand.
It's like we're looking into the heart of creation itself.
Exactly.
It's a privilege to be part of that.
So here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
We've talked about how kaons have helped us understand the quark model, CP violation, the weak interaction.
Yeah.
But what if there's even more to the story?
What do you mean?
What if kaons hold the key to unlocking even deeper mysteries?
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Things we haven't even begun to imagine.
It's definitely possible.
Right.
That's the beauty of science.
Yeah,
Every answer leads to more questions.
exactly.
As we delve deeper into the strange world of kaons,
Mm-hmm.
who knows what incredible discoveries await us?
Maybe we'll find evidence for supersymmetry
It's possible.
or uncover new forces of nature.
Or even stumble upon entirely new dimensions.
Wow, yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is.
And maybe, just maybe, some of those future discoveries will be made by someone listening right now.
I hope so.
Perhaps you'll be the one to unlock the next layer of the universe's secrets.
It could happen.
So stay curious, keep asking those big questions, and never stop exploring.
That's the key.
The universe is out there, waiting to be discovered.
It's an amazing universe we live in,
It really is.
full of mysteries and wonders.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of kaons.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot today.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey
And learned some cool stuff.
and that you'll continue to explore the amazing world of particle physics.
There's always more to learn.
So, until next time, keep those minds curious and those imaginations firing.
Keep exploring.